Hey guys, it's Jane. It's Monday. It's a pretty grim Monday here. It's grey and windy and overcast, and yeah, it really is beginning to feel like maybe the seasons are turning after all. And I have got a mystery Monday for you. I haven't done one of these in literally years, but I've been recently reading a series of crime stories that I've really been enjoying, and so I thought, why don't I pop in and do a Mystery Monday for old time's sake. The series is Rhys Bowen's Her Royal Spyness. These are, I guess, cozies. They're set in the UK in between the wars, so I think it's sort of 1930 in the first ones. I've only read the first three. There's about, I think, a dozen. She's still writing them currently, I believe. The central character is Lady Georgie. I've forgotten the family name because I'm hopeless with names. And she is the sister of a current duke, and I think the great granddaughter of Queen Victoria. She's 34th in line for the British throne. The current monarch in the book, in the first three at any rate, is our current Queen's grandfather. But the king, although he appears occasionally, is much less important in this story than the Queen. The Queen is quite a central, motivating character who pops up. She's not a main character, but she pops up and sort of moves the action along once or twice. So Georgie is in her early 20s. A year before the story starts, she came out into society, had her season, did all the Deb balls and stuff like that, but did not find a husband. Which is a bit of a problem for the current Duke, because the current Duke, her elder brother, has not got any money. Basically, they still own the family estate, but only just, which is in Scotland, and so there is no money for Georgie. Georgie, at the very beginning of the first book, basically runs away from her family home in Scotland and takes up residence in London. So she's living by herself in London, and she has a few friends in London, but she's never lived in London for any length of time before, and she's living in a family home with no servants because they had no servants to send with her, and she's got no money to employ them. And so at the beginning of the story, she's having to do things like learn how to turn on the boiler, learn how to make her own bed, and dress herself and feed herself. There is a prince, a European prince, who the family's trying to marry her off to, that she is not interested in. So she has to basically give the impression that she's doing okay in order to avoid getting married off. And yeah, that's sort of the setup. She in the very first book, she gets a job in retail, which she manages to keep for about 3 hours before being fired, and there's a whole bunch of little things like that which are very amusing. But anyway, the title, Her Royal Spyness, is because the Queen invites her to tea and asks her to do a little job for her. The Queen's eldest son, the Prince of Wales, the expected heir, has seemingly taken up with an unsuitable woman, an American divorcee who is currently married, Mrs. Simpson. And anyway, the Queen is wanting to send Georgie off to a house party so that she can spy and come back to the Queen and let her know what's actually going on. Have things really, how far things have really gone between the Prince and this woman. And she does do that in the first book, but other things intrude. That a corpse turns up in the bathtub in the London residence where Georgie's staying, and yeah, hijinks ensue. That's just the first book, and things sort of basically go from bad to worse for Georgie. People seem to fall down dead around her all the time, but I guess in a sense she's part of the royal family, and there are assassins and poisonings and all sorts of things that are slightly more plausible in her sort of situation than they might be in, I don't know, a little village called Midsummer or something. I don't know. They're very sweet. The main character, Georgie, is very likable. There is, she has sort of flirtations at different points in the books with a range of different unsuitable men. They all seem to turn out to be cads in one way or another, except the most unsuitable of all, who by the third book, I think I've pretty much figured out that he is the romantic hero of this series, but nothing's happened between them except a couple of stolen kisses by the end of the third book. So there's a nice slow burn, which I appreciate. It's just enjoyable. It's nothing particularly substantial. It is well written. There are moments when it's a little repetitive because, it's a series and they have to reintroduce the problem that Georgie is having in her life each time. And so there are a couple of conversations in subsequent books that, I've heard pretty much word for word in earlier books, but that's just one of those things that happen with long-running series. All in all, I've really enjoyed them and I recommend them to anybody who's looking for a light read. So the first book is called Her Royal Spyness. The second book that I've read is called A Royal Pain, and the third book is called Royal Flush. If anybody's read any of these, I would love to hear what your thoughts on them. I hope you're all well, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.